And really, I just wanted to start the video as soon as possible because I just don't want to lose any moment of this deliciosity. And I just want to ask you up front if it's okay that I just flirt with you like crazy throughout this whole interview. It's going to be really
I'm so down.
yes. Well, can we start with a little check-in, just like sharing a few sensations that are alive in the body right now?
It's alive in my body. My belly feels relaxed. My solar plexus feels a little tight. I think just a little bit of nerves, I guess. And my heart feels really, really good. Really, really warm.
Thank you. I'm hearing about a belly that's relaxed and a solar plexus that's a little activated right now, sort of running some energy, and a heart that feels soft and open.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I feel like a distinct sort of tingling at the base of my cock right now. I feel like this sweet kind of like upward energy in my belly that's just like there, and it's like excitement. It's like a genuine sort of flow of energy, and I just feel such an openness in my heart, like, just like softness and readiness for whatever sort of happens. Yeah, thank you for
Thank you.
yourself with me. Ah, well, I want to say that I've been formatting my interviews a certain way up until now, and I might sort of bring back a few of the pieces of formatting, but I also just want to kind of enter into a bit more of a sort of fluid exploration with you.
Done and done.
Yay. Um, so I think uh, first of all, can you tell me about a time when a guy approached you out of kind of nowhere and it was just hot? Like you were fucking into it. Like you were like, yes, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're more than happy to. So actually, I feel so grateful to get to say this, but this was on Friday. After a long period of not being approached by anyone in any okay fashion. But just on Friday, I had a really great, very surprising encounter just at like a big group gathering, a group dinner, and had this man who I may have otherwise not particularly noticed come up to me and instantly and very confidently start flirting with me. Um, I don't know if you want me to get into like more of the like details or what exactly you're fishing for, but I will say that, you know, the overarching energy was one of just complete like ownership and confidence. And it came from, you know, someone, I'm going to be super fucking honest, like I sort of was not necessarily looking at as like, oh yeah, you're a hottie. And the second he did it this way, I was like, oh, hello, who are you? And I want to know you. And it was fascinating. It was really fascinating to watch, and it was really beautiful to get to experience because I felt really desired. I felt really alive, and I felt like even just in that moment, he sort of taught me something about myself, and that I do have a little bit of a, you know, judgmental asshole in me, you know, and yet, and he turned that around, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, you know, I see like the blind spot that you already pulled up on our first encounter, and I was like really appreciative of that, you know. Um, he just was very playful and just I felt really seen. I felt like there was one point where I was just sharing something about food that I love. And I guess I'm someone who, like, when I get really passionate, I like, I'm very Mediterranean. I use my hands a lot. And I'm speaking about like eating like mangoes from Egypt and papaya from like Bali. And I was just like getting really into it. And I guess my hands were doing all the things. And he just looked at me and was smiling. And I was like, what? And he's like, I could watch you talk about food forever. And that was such a sweet, like, to me, that was like hot, sweet. And I don't know, it was like all the things. I was like, thank you for seeing me, you know?
Oh, oh my God. I could listen to you talk about having this guy talk about watching talk about food.
I love it. I love it. You're one upping. Got it. Okay.
Oh God, no, that was so hot. Every single thing you just did was just like just like landed in my bones. And you're speaking exactly to the men who I'm working with, guys who don't like, most of them don't like, aren't the guy you're going to pick out of a crowd and be like, that guy is hot, I want to know him. They're guys who need to embody themselves in a way that's going to get attention, in a totally different way, and show up and step into interactions with women like you, who they can own their sort of value with, and really like play with, right?
Yep.
Because that shit is hot, right? Like, oh my God, it's so wonderful how energetics can turn us on in a way that like, that is so like along completely different lines. And I think women, especially, though I've experienced this myself with women, I wouldn't have like said like, ooh, like, yeah, that she's hot, but when we start interacting, like, it's so juicy and it's so fun, and she's so like playful, and I just love that shit, right?
Yeah.
Can you, and it's okay if you can't, or just take a stab at it, can you take a stab at describing how he embodied his sort of desire with you that felt so like on the one hand congruent and real, and on the other hand like non-threatening, or like putting you off?
Yeah. I think that he definitely felt me feeling him. So I think when I feel a man really checking into my nonverbal cues and picking up correctly on them, because I think I've been in just many situations where, you're sort of like, your body starts to turn away and like they're still talking and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. What do I do? So, when they're not picking up on that, that's when the desire can start to feel a little like needy, creepy, weird, right? Like all those like things that I know everyone's really scared of doing. And so I would really, I would say the most important thing is to really just like work on breathing into your own body as a man, so that you are really connected to yourself first and foremost, and your animal body. And then when you're in that animal body, you'll be able to pick up on my animal body. And is my animal body going like green light, or red light, or is it like orange, and I think he did such a great job at picking up on, even though I wasn't like overtly doing anything, it was just like I was paying attention, I was looking, I was facing him. It's just the little things, and I felt him really mindfully pick up on that and sort of check in first before making that first move, and trying out a couple of little things, like I think we were talking about our age, and he actually was younger than me, and I was like, oh, I'm 37, and he just had this like look of disbelief. And then someone else started talking, and he just leaned in and he goes, you look so good for 37. And then he leans in again, he goes, so good. And I was like, okay, thanks. So it's like these little things that I feel like if you start off with something like that, no woman is going to hate you for saying you look good at a certain age or whatnot. So he was like seeing, how does my body respond to those little nuggets that he was sort of throwing at me? And then from there went bigger, to the point by the end of the dinner, he asked me out. He's like, what are you doing next week? pull out your calendar. When's a good time? Let's do this, you know? And that's the other piece I would say that's really important is like, at least for me, I can't speak to the experience of all women, but um, I love when a man takes charge. You know, I'm a woman who runs her own business. I'm very independent. I have to do all these other things on my own. And it's like when I get to just lean back and let this man lead and be like, I will pick you up and I will choose the place. And this is the time, like, does it work for you? And this is the time I suggest. Like, I'm just like, I get to relax. I get to open
You
in
get to
every
say yes.
way.
You get to say yes, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
so hungry to just say yes to something instead of having
Mm-hmm.
to figure it out and manage it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds
Yeah.
like he was really he modulated himself really well, like starting small,
Mm-hmm.
checking for the small signs of like connection, and then sort of like until, you know, growing the connection and getting more and more playful, and you know, getting more and more real with you, like, oh my god, I could just watch you talk about mangoes forever, right? To
Mm-hmm.
all right, get on the calendar, like, what are we waiting for? Let's do this.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and like, I got this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I find the more I've really been in this, just been in this exploration right now so deeply around what turns me on about men. You know, I was in a pretty long-term relationship and have been out for a little over a year now, um, and have been dabbling, you know, in this new world of dating. Tinder and all the things. I don't actually do Tinder, but you know, the online dating
It
apps and
moves
stuff.
fast.
And
The whole world of dating moves very fast these days.
yeah, so when I entered my last relationship, there was no apps, and then I came out and there were apps. So it's been a really interesting process, because as I do this version of dating, I've had to become really clear, and it's helped me become clear on what works for me and what doesn't. And I've really realized it comes down to three things for me personally. One is trustability. Another one is desirability. And I can get into each one of these. And then the third is confidence, which the confidence one, I think I knew it, but it was so clearly etched into my system last Friday when I did feel, you know, this man just totally do like a 180 in my system because of the way that he showed up.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm happy to elaborate on any of those. But those to me feel like I'm playing with looking at everything through this lens and seeing if in fact it is about these three things for me or not.
Mm, yes, thank you. Those are so beautiful to me. And what builds trustability in a man for you? I mean, you spoke to it a little bit a minute ago when you said like he was paying attention to my cues. Like he
Mm-hmm.
started small, and he really did like communicate with me non-verbally, and like not explicitly
Mm-hmm.
verbally, but through his verbal sort of banter, that he
Yeah.
was paying attention to me and my body and what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, you know, I actually like was sitting and journaling on this because I found it to be so important. And I think trustability, I was like, okay, what does trustability do for me? And for me, it's about feeling safe and feeling held, like those two pieces. And I think trustability for me, and I don't know that that would be the same for everyone, but for me, it comes from someone who says they're gonna do something and then actually does it. That to me is just a value of mine that I really appreciate. Like, or if you're not going to do it, please communicate that you're not going to do it or why you can't do it, and so on. The second, and nowadays it's so easy for people not to follow up. So even with things like basic, you know, I don't want to call it casual dating, but you know, whatever, doing stuff on these apps. It's like you just start a chat with someone and then they just completely disappear halfway through the conversation. To me, it doesn't matter, you know, what's going on. Even if I'm having a horrible conversation with someone, I wrap it up. I like to just wrap it up and be like, I close the tab, like, thank you, this is great, I don't think this is a match, moving, you know, something to just put a bow on it. And so, but I know nowadays it's become really part of our culture to just sort of halfway through a process leave, which to me is like a no-no, big no-no.
So many levels. It's such a no-no. Like, it starts as a no-no for your own integrity, right?
Mhm.
Like, have the courage to close a fucking loop. Why don't you? Like,
Yeah.
first of all. And then second of all, like, it's a no-no in any kind of relationship. Like, the number one thing, like, it's so weird. And I think that, you know, clearly there's some sort of value to it, or it wouldn't be so sort of known in our culture, but there's such a weird sort of culture of PUA, pickup artistry, that says like kind of leave her hanging, you know, like create this whole like distance thing. It's like a whole thing, right? It's a part of the thing. And I just find that to be so antithetical to every conscious woman that I've ever been around,
Yeah.
right?
Ooh, so icky. I'm instantly like, what?
Yeah.
Who says that? Is that a thing? They're teaching this? What?
I'm so sorry. Like, you don't just I you might get curious after just that little bit of conversation about it,
Right.
and I just don't recommend you go there. Like, you're already up,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but you know, essentially, like, and honestly, like, before I thought of launching a dating course, I thought of launching a, like, how to be immune to pickup artistry course for
Mm,
women,
mhm,
which I still am actually considering doing. But this whole idea of like, stay attentive, like stay present in the conversation, and at
mhm,
the very least, if you're no longer interested in interaction, like, have the courage to say what's true,
mhm,
and at least you walk away from each other having respected each other. Because one of my big principles around this whole thing is like that it's actually like we're a team. Like, we're all a team. Like, men and women are all a team, like getting more of what we want, right? And like, men are a subset of that team, and we're on a team, right, as well. But we're not on a team to beat you. We're on a team that's like trying for all of us to get more of what we want. And every time a guy sort of does that shit, ghosts on somebody, pulls something like that, then I like to, like, my phrase is like the legs of the universe close a little bit more. And every time a guy like shows up with integrity and like shows up and says exactly what he wants or doesn't want and is like super clear and honest, like the legs of the universe just open a little more too for everybody,
This is
right?
like the hottest image ever.
Right? I think so. And it's like, who doesn't want the legs of the universe to open and get a little wetter down there? Like,
Yeah.
fuck, we all want that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I also I'd love to speak a little bit to my experience, helping women get more embodied, and most of the women who are coming to me because they're feeling like, I want to feel more sexy, I want to feel more sensual, and I go through these 4 pillars of embodiment, and the first one is, and I always tell my clients or potential clients, I'm like, the work of feeling sexy actually isn't sexy; it's about safety. And so really the work we're doing in the first pillar, which is about planting the seeds of safety, is really nervous system work. And the reason I'm sharing this is because it's important, I think, for the men to understand what the process of women is when they're trying to get embodied and when they're trying to surrender into their softness and into opening up more. And safety is the number one variable. It's like, there's so many programs. So similar to the pickup artistry, although these programs are totally well-intentioned and have some great stuff in it, there's a lot of programs for women about like, get your lingerie and learn how to lap dance and put the feather boas, and all of those are amazing. And I want to do all of them, and I do all of them. And it's very much like an outside in method of doing things. And if your nervous system is not safe, or you're with someone who doesn't feel safe, it doesn't matter what outfit you got at the sex store. It's not going to be hot sex. And same the other way around. I can be in sweatpants and a t-shirt and feel like the hottest thing on earth if my partner, if one, I've done the work to feel hot, and my partner helps with creating that sense of safety. So it's, obviously it's a partnership, but there's a piece where the man's involved, or the partner.
Truly. And in fact, like, the more you perform on either side of that sort of paradigm, the more you're performing, actually, like, the more damage you do in the long run. The
Right.
more you actually stop trusting your own gut and intuition, and stop really paying attention to what makes you feel good, and start, so much of what's out there is about performing something. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to have you as an ally in, like, what is it to really be embodied in this, right? And I like to say to guys that, like, every single interaction you have with a woman, I mean, and every single interaction in every relationship, but especially with women, you are either building trust or reducing trust. There's hardly any neutral ground. Like, and that can feel like pressure in a certain way, but I just want guys to understand that like your nervous system doesn't forget a damn thing about what's happened in our relationship. Like,
not a thing.
right? Like, and I'm either building that, and I'd like to say, just as personal reference, I feel like I've had the pleasure of getting to build trust for the most part with you and build connection. And I did that thing too in our interaction where I checked out from this like juicy alive moment and didn't like follow up with you, right? And I want to own that too and say that like from my side, like it got a little juicy and a little like I felt more excited than I might have wanted to feel. And I have a boo, I have a partner, you know? And so like I hit my sort of a limit there around like, oh shit, like I don't know what to do next. Cause like what I want to do is just like play this game all the way to see where it goes. And what I do for my integrity with my partnership is to just set the record straight, right? And I didn't do either of those things. I just got silent in my like tension, right? So this is a long-winded way of acknowledging you and saying, I'm sorry. And I did the thing. And I did do a thing that reduced trust between us. And then I feel that and it hurts because I want to build trust.
Thank you for sharing that. And I will share that my experience was once you did say, hey, oh yeah, I totally own this thing, and this is actually like the situation and the context, the trust was right back there. You know, it was like, oh, okay, cool. We're good, you know? And I think that it took a lot of courage. So I had a lot of respect for the fact that you were like, all right, yeah, actually that's totally what I was doing. And I realized this was misleading. And also here's my reality. And I was like, oh, cool. It's all on the table now. Now it's clear. Now we get to move on. Right. And to me, you know, all of us are human. We're all going to do, like I've done, even as I've been doing this like dating thing, like I've said some things that I thought were like the smart thing to say and then backtracked and was like, what did I just say? And whoopsies. And I just emasculated this person and that wasn't what I meant to do. And we're all going to have these moments where we flail. And I think that, you know, with that, it's like, as long as you come back and you go, here's what just went down. To me, it's not, I mean, I don't know about other women, but if you were interacting with me, I'd be like, we're good and we're back on track. So I think the tracking starts to happen if it's a consistent pattern. So I may not forget this moment. If you were to have, you know, if this were to be a recurrent pattern over and over again, probably the third time around, I'd be like, something's up here. Like, this is not, there's a thing. And I would really flag it. But otherwise it's just bookmarked and won't really reappear unless it happens over and over again. So I think like we all get to make mistakes and we all get to come back and just own them and then move on and everything's fine.
I love every part of that.
So there's less pressure, you know. I don't want it, like, we don't want to be like, oh yeah, you mess up once and the trustability is gone. No.
Yeah, because the whole, it's not about perfection. It's about taking the adjustment. It's about actually receiving the feedback and owning your shit, you know? Like, none of us is without our shit. And when somebody's like, what was that? And you're like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't.
Now that is flagged.
Like, that ruins trust, right? But we all need each other. We all need each other as reflections and mirrors. So we can be like, oh yeah, that. Damn, I totally did that. And that's part of something I'm working on right now. So thank you for pointing that out. And I really want to move past it, you know, like, boom, like it again, it just restores that sense of connection and congruence. I'm congruent with myself and you get to be congruent with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, I think there's this interesting fine line between trust and safety, right? They're so intertwined that we've looked at, right? And what I've found over and over again is that, you know, when women feel safe, then they want to open, like all of this like juice that you have inside that you're kind of constantly protecting from the world in a certain way, from the world at large. Like all you really want in a certain way is a safe space to let that guard down. Really, like like you're searching for it in a certain way. And of course there are certain different levels of resistance to letting that guard down, and those are different for everybody. But my sense is as soon as a woman finds somebody who they can like enjoy the presence of and feel safe with, like that guard starts coming down, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I think the other thing, like desirability is kind of a, you know, your second piece is kind of a, it's different for everybody, right? And I think it's less interesting to me than the third piece, which is about confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I like to say is that, like, I'll take courage over confidence any day. The confidence is ultimately really just something that you've done courageously enough times that you're no longer afraid, right?
Sure.
Courage is just a relationship you have with fear, and it's just a, like, hey, fear, like, come on along, we're gonna go on a little trip together. Are you ready? You know. But confidence is ultimately something that that you're relaxed around, right? He's just so, and those are my words, and I'm sorry to even prime you with it, but I'm curious what demonstrates confidence to you, and what's a turn on about that for you?
Well, I think it's sort of twofold. Like on the one hand, you know, of course, the way that someone approaches me, and if they're just like really grounded and centered and embodied and like exuding that confidence, there's a suaveness, there's a charm, there's a sexiness that comes with that, that automatically turns me on, right? His dial's up, my dial goes up if it isn't already. But then the other piece of the confidence is actually one that's a little bit more like soulful, meaning that if I really feel, and this is more for the longevity of things, I think, is like if I really feel like my person is just doing the work and knows themselves really, really well. It doesn't mean they're perfect in any way. It just means that they're really able to, they've mastered their inner terrain, and they're able to notice, oh, when this is happening and when that's happening. When they've done that work and they've confidence from having done that work, I don't feel drained coming into the partnership. So I don't feel this like I have to do the work for you as well. I need to educate you. I need to show you how it's done. Because I think a lot of women are feeling that more and more recently, just because I think there's just been a lot more personal development spheres for women. And so there's been, and of course I'm around a very particular group of women because I'm, you know, working with these women. But the general challenge that seems to come up with all my female colleagues and clients is one of, I got to now teach, not only am I learning this stuff myself, now I got to teach my partner, assuming he's a guy, how to do it as well. And when we are holding, it's not an equal energetic exchange, and it's not like we're both going in as like whole people and, you know, then working on the unit. It's like there's still this like dysfunction and sort of a codependency piece there. And I think as long as there's that, I'm personally not interested, because I've been in those versions of relationships, and I can't be the best version of myself. And I'm most interested in being the best version of myself. And my best version is going to create the best version of my reality and the world around me. And I know that's very clear to me. And so unless someone can come in and is able to upgrade that instead of drain me from, you know, putting energy into my mission in the world, I'd rather just hang out alone and have a lover or two.
Amen. Right. And it's not, I love the way you said, like, it's not that like anybody's perfect. It's that anybody is demonstrating their ability to look at themselves and be like, oh yeah, like I'm working on that. Or they're showing up, like investing in themselves. Right. Like women are by far out investing men in themselves. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter like what category you look at, whether it's like, you know, clothes, like we can go to like the grossest ways, like clothes, makeup, like all the things. Like women are investing in themselves way more than guys. And then when you get into like the spiritual and the growth oriented stuff, like women are way out investing men right? And I don't fault men for this. Like we have not been given permission to invest in ourselves. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
soldiers. Like we're here to invest in the culture. We're here to invest in society. And and so we're not allowed to have that level of self-care. It's effeminate, it's wrong, right? And so there's no fault around men for this, but has to be a recognition that it's a disjunct between men and women culturally right now, and that
Yeah.
women aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for men who are working on themselves, and looking for men who aren't relying on their women to be their therapist and their confidant and their this and their that and their this and their that. Like, you're looking for a man who wants you as his lover and partner, right? And has all those other things in other people in different roles in his life. It doesn't mean there's not profound intimacy and deep like connection. It just means that like he's not leaning hard on you and taking your resources away from where you want to really be putting them, which is changing the fucking world and making women all more capable of exactly what we're talking about right now. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had a love coach in the past who told me something that really struck me. Um, Her name's Annie Lala, and she was sharing with me that, when you're in partnership, you have to think of your needs, your partner's needs, and the needs of the relationship itself. So there's really three sets of needs here. And I think this plays into each person having to do the work on their needs. And of course I want my teammate. Like that's what I want. Otherwise everything else is easy to get. If I want to go have sex, whatever, I can figure that one out, I'm sure. Like if I want, whatever, like all the things, even women can get, pregnant now if they really want to do it on their own, like, right. It's not a problem. But I want like my teammate. I want my person who's like, ride or die. Let's do this till the end. And to me, that trustability and that it comes from, and the hope that that's actually possible comes from the confidence of, I'm either doing the work or I've done the work, and we're always doing the work. So I guess we'll always continue to do the work, but at least I'm starting to do the work and I'm owning that. And that's really it. Right. And then like showing up in every, at least trying to, like, when you say you're going to pick me up at 7, like pick me up at 7, 7:15 is okay too, but I prefer 7,
No.
but like
It's 6:10 or 7 o'clock. Like, fucking, like, for me at least, like, I don't ever want men to make excuses to be 15 minutes late. Like, never do it. Never do it. And there's no man who should do that consistently, at least. We all
right,
know.
right,
And
right.
I'm one of the most challenged people around time ever in the universe. And so, this is also my particular projection based on my particular challenge. But nonetheless,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and it goes back to trustworthiness, and it goes also back to desirability in a certain way. When a man like shows you that he's interested, when like every action that he does says like, I'm really interested in your world and I want you to get that, or it's like, I'm not that interested in your world, actually.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever you want to give me, but
Yeah.
I'm really interested in really showing up and earning it, right?
Well, the being seen, you really do not underestimate how hot it is for a woman to feel seen, because I'll just give you an example. Between that Friday night that I was with, met this guy, and then Sunday night I had a date. Things are usually not lively over here. It's just a very particular week. And Friday, this man asked me so many questions and was just listening to me speak about myself. On Sunday, I had the exact opposite experience, which is that I just kept asking questions. I felt like I was leading the conversation. It was really tiring for me. And it was like I was asking him, things about his life, and he would answer and talk all about it, and then wouldn't ask me anything about me. And then I would ask another question, and then he would talk about something else. And, I knew that, he was probably just nervous. And like, I get that it wasn't like an intentional thing, but, I walked away and he was like, I'd like to see you again. And I was like, I don't. Like, and nothing wrong with this guy. Like, he seems really sweet, but I was just like, you didn't open me up in any way. You seemed really uninterested in my life. So.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I think this is literally like my favorite interview that I've done of all time with this project. And I'm so grateful for your articulateness, your ability to like, and just like how by whatever great fortune, like you have some very fresh examples for us of
Just for you
coming
guys,
through.
just for you.
Oh my God, it's so good. And you're just looking so fucking beautiful throughout
Mm,
every moment of this conversation. Like
thank you.
really, you're stunning to me, Nadia. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank
Would you be
you.
willing to show me your necklace? I just want to see the wholeness
Oh
of it.
yeah. Isn't it great?
Oh, so good.
I got it from Bali, I think. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think it was Bali.
So
Yeah, they have like the best stuff and they're like $10 and stuff. It's amazing.
right? It's so beautiful. And then I got to see a little bit more of your neck was also a pleasure. Thank you. Uh, well, I do have a 3:45, so I need to bounce. And
All
I
right.
wish that I could do it with a little bit more sort of transition, but I just thank you so much for everything you've shared. And I'm tempted to literally just use this entire interview. Like there's nothing that I would cut out of this. I think this is just amazing. And I'll share this particular context with you, but I think this would just be like everything you've said is exactly what the guys who I'm here to
Mm,
support need to hear. And so
awesome.
thank you. And thank you for the work that you're doing with women and holding that space. Thank you for being my sexy friend. And more soon, please.
Awesome. Great. Yes. Thanks so much for having me on this. And it was great. And yes, all the things, all the things.
Mm, yes.
All right. We'll
Take care.
talk soon. Bye.